All righty. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we at What's Troubling You, with me, of course, Chantel and
Julie.
Charlene. We are here to discuss mental health awareness, and we have three wonderful therapists online, and they're going to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Julie Keller, and I'm in Roseville, California. I graduated from Texas Wesleyan University with my master's
Rams.
in marriage and family therapy. I'm currently working on my PhD in marriage and family therapy and will be a clinical psychologist. I work at a residential treatment center for suicidal teenagers. I should say myself and my dog. My dog is also a therapy dog, of which they're going to do a news broadcast about. Anyway, I work at Discovery Mood and Anxiety, and they have offices and residential treatment centers, partial hospitalization plans, and IOPs throughout the nation. As a matter of fact, one of them is even in Dallas. What I do is we get teenagers who have been stepped down from the psych ward due to suicide attempts. So we have a big, beautiful home that they come and live in for approximately 4 to 6 weeks. They have been cutting, they have been running away. They basically just want to die. And what I have heard over and over and over as I've worked there almost a year is that COVID really messed them up. It messed a lot of people up, but it really messed up our teenagers. I liken it to pulling them out of society, isolating them for a couple of years, and then throwing them back into society and expecting them to act as though nothing has changed. And it didn't work. And I call it a social shift with our teenagers, of which I would like to do more science on. But what we do is we initially get them, whether their parents bring them or maybe even the hospital brings them to us. And we spend probably the first 3 hours at the residence before they ever meet anyone or see anything, assessing them and doing a biopsychosocial intake. So one of us will do the patient and one of us will do the parents, because we're a social, because we're a systemic type of mental health. We also work closely with the parents, because as you know, a lot of what's going on with the teenagers is going on, at home. So it's highly affecting the parents. So we get the kids' version of it and the parents' version of it. And I think it's most interesting, and because it is such a long process, because we fully assess them. We not only assess what's going on with them psychologically, but we assess what's going on with them medically. Maybe they're having struggles with diabetes. And as you know, diabetes affects mental health. So it's not only important to find out, what is troubling them mentally, but, like I said, what's also going on physically, biopsychosocially. I think what is really important too in this process is treatment planning. So we do what's called DBT, and I call it CBT with a heart. DBT is dialectic behavior therapy, and it's so important with these struggling youth and their parents, because it teaches things such as not only mindfulness, how to calm yourself down, self-soothing, breathing, meditation, and getting your body to calm down. But it also works with interpersonal effectiveness, and that means communication, because so often that is the problem, is they're not able to communicate. And as you all know, in this day and age, they don't really want to communicate. face to face. They would rather look at a phone, their screen, and so having done that for a couple of years and that being their only mode of communication, they're struggling to deal with people face to face now. And that's why I say throwing them back out into society and expecting them to act as everything is normal does not work. As a matter of fact, we're creating college courses in how to socialize so they can even do a job interview anymore. They struggle with, I have to talk to you face to face. And that's the message I'm getting from every kid is, wait, I've been up all night on my phone and now I'm expected to get up in the morning and go to school and face people? Not happening. So what we do in our program is we get them back on a normal schedule. And that's what I call it. We take their electronics away and we don't let them nap during the day, but we put them on a regimen, on a schedule. They get up at a normal time. They take their shower. Their every minute is planned throughout the day. They do schoolwork, they have socializing, they even have plans for how they socialize and how they have fun. We have a big, beautiful art room. And we also have this thing called phasing up. They come in at pre-phase where they do not get to speak to their parents or anyone for 72 hours. And that first 72 hours, they want to go home. They want to go home. They want to be in their bed. They want to be up all night on their phone, and they want life the way it used to be. So I call it coming in, kicking and screaming. We, for about the first few days, have to calm them down because they're crying. They're upset. I would rather be at home. I want to go home. But after a few days and getting on a normal schedule, they start to see the benefit of, hey, wow, okay, I see what this is about. I need to have a regular life and be around other kids my age and do things that people used to do before the pandemic. And so often what's funny is after the 30 to 45 days, a lot of them don't want to go home. They're happy again and they're having a happy childhood. And I always tell the kids, our goal for you is that you go home and you have a good, happy, peaceful life that you're enjoying, that you're getting out there and you're having fun and you're doing things. Because the way they were doing it is socially isolating. And when, as you all know, a kid is socially isolating, they become suicidal. We all do. We are social beings by nature. And so that's what Discovery does. It gets them back to living the kind of life that you and I grew up with in a social, what we call normal. I know as clinicians, we don't like to use the word normal, but in this instance, it is so, it's so appropriate, I like to say. And I always tell the kids, they're very upset the first few days. I always tell them, look, this is such a short amount of time in your life. You're going to be here for what feels like an eternity, but it's actually only 5 minutes out of your life. Just stop, adapt to it, and give us the chance to help you feel better. And we constantly, daily assess them. We have process groups every single day. Where is your depression on the Likert scale, 1 to 10? Where is your anxiety? Where is your suicidal ideation, self-harm urges? Where is your cheerfulness? What is your mood? And we process how they're feeling. And then we have DBT. Okay, so your emotions are all over the place. We do emotion regulation. So you're stressed and you can't tolerate your roommate talking to you. We do distress tolerance. And what we teach the kids, we teach the parents through the treatment plans. We share the treatment plan and say, okay, this is what we're teaching the kids, but this is the grown-up version of it. I'll send them YouTube videos. YouTube is a wealth of information. I always tell the parents, go to YouTube and search out DBT for teenagers or DBT for parents, and you'll understand what we're trying to teach these kids. And so by the time we get them home, we've not only tried to reshape the kid's life, but we've reshaped the parent's life. And how I do that is I have them come up with a plan. I know I'm speaking really fast, I'm sorry. But I have the kid design, what does your day and night look like? And I have the parents design, what does your day and night look like? Let's bring those together and compromise and make the right day and night. And another intervention I have is before they go home, which we start preparing them for home day one. Okay, what is it going to look like when you get home? This is our hopes and goals for you. But what I have them do is one day a week or night, set up okay, let's say it's Billy time. Set up a Billy time in the week. Okay, what day is that? What night, what time is that? And I have them write a list, the patient and the parents, of all their concerns through the week, so that they have that time, be it 2 or 3 hours at the park, at a restaurant, wherever, that they come together and they share what's been on their mind all week. And then that way, the parent's not following the kid around, stressing them out, and the kid's not following the parent around, stressing them out, but they have a plan to sit down and talk about what is going on in your life. And it not only helps to solve a lot of their problems, but it also keeps them connected, because they don't want to connect with anyone. So it starts with where's the best place to connect? Home, with your parents and your siblings. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do. Does anybody have any questions? Hello?
No, we're gonna do questions at the end after everyone speaks.
Oh, okay. So that's me, Chantel. That's what I do in the life of Julie Keller in California.
Wonderful. You do
Thank
a
you.
lot, sounds like.
It's a busy job.
Yes, yes. Well, my name is Dr. Kimberly Scales. I have been in the field since 2001. I have a master's in counseling and psychology. My doctorate is in clinical supervision and education. I am an LPCS and an LCDC and a lot of other acronyms that I pay for every year. That I don't need to name all of those. But, you know, I've worked with so many different populations. I've worked on the criminal justice side of things, as well as for-profit, non-for-profit. I've worked with adolescents, CPS. I've had HIV, AIDS caseloads, and I'm currently working with medicated assisted treatment patients. And so these are adults who have opiate dependency and require both counseling as well as medications to help them to start towards recovery. I also serve on a couple of different professional boards as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee chair on one and just on the committee of the other at the state level. I'm also a mother of an adult son and the mother of a 5-year-old terrier miniature schnauzer mix named Kingsford. I am a ministry leader for my church. I also am the sole proprietor of a private practice, New Life Counseling and Education. But I only see LPC associates. I don't see patients because of my other job as a clinical supervisor at the agency that I work at. I am an author of Every Pair of Eyes Has a Story. And so there's a lot of things that I am, just like many of you out there. There are a lot of hats that you wear. And so mental health is so important. And this being May Mental Health Awareness Month, one of the things that I always post is in May, when this month comes up, I ask people, have you had your mental health checkup? For me, I have already this year, I have had my annual physical at the first of the year. I've had my mammogram. I've had a dental appointment. I have an eye appointment that's still pending. I've seen several different doctors to make sure that my physical health is where it needs to be. And so one of the things that I've realized over the years is that on the mental health side, though, we don't seem to do that. We don't check in each year and have a checkup on our mental health. And so our mental health is just as important as our physical health. One of the things that we talk about, especially in substance abuse, when we talk about co-occurring disorders. So when we talk about co-occurring disorders, what we're really talking about, for those out there who don't, not privileged to this language that we speak, it is where a person has two disorders. They may have, like most of the people that I deal with, have a substance use disorder as well as a mental health disorder. So they may be addicted to alcohol or some type of drug, as well as have a significant diagnosis of depression, anxiety, bipolar, or something like that. Some even schizophrenia. So, I mean, it's two things that are going on, and you cannot treat one and not treat the other. You have to treat them both concurrently. And so it's the same thing with our mental health and our physical health. You can't treat your physical and not see about your mental health. And you can't just concentrate on your mental health and not see about your physical. They both act on each other. And so you have to take care of both of them at the same time. But so often we neglect our mental health. If I could see this audience today, I do a lot of presentations, I would ask, how many of you have had your mental health checkup this year? And most of the times, there's maybe one person in the room who puts their hand up. It's very rare that people call in or go in. Even as a counselor or a therapist myself, I have to so often see a therapist. Yeah, that might be surprising to some of you, but it is very important that we stay mentally healthy so that we can continue to help others. So if you have a therapist that you're going to see, I would ask them eventually while I was seeing them, do you have a therapist? And if they don't, then I might kind of consider, do I need to be seeing you? And I'm just being honest. I don't know any other way to be, but it's just important that our mental health be a priority, especially after what we've gone through with COVID-19, as Ms. Keller mentioned. That was, for a lot of people, traumatic. And so after any trauma, whether it's a big trauma or a small trauma, you really do need to find some safe place or safe person to be able to talk to and talk through that, and to be able to check in and make sure that your mental health is stable. And that brings me to, because I have been on so many of the diversity and equity and inclusion pieces and my doctorate, when I did my when I did I can't my I'm losing it right now. But when I did my dissertation, there's the word, poop, came back. When I did my dissertation, it had to do with culture. And so I looked at African American LPCs throughout their professional development and their perceived challenges. And so for people of color, it is very, very important to look at your mental health. So many people of color avoid mental health. Um, it's, I don't have a problem. I don't need that. That's other races' problems. That's not Black people's problems. We don't, have to do that. Or they, I'm a Christian, so I can say this. They religious it. They decide that God's gonna handle it. Whatever it is that's going on with me, God. So they spiritualize mental health. It's a demon. It's a bad spirit. All of these types of things, when really it's as simple as I'm having an issue with my mental health. I am having problems, and it's okay to not be okay. That's something that I want everybody to understand. It's okay to not be okay. So people of color really, I stress a lot, and I go to a lot of churches and talk about trauma and mental health and the signs of it. I talk to a lot of pastors, a lot of ministry leaders, because in the Black community, the church is usually where they go, and they come and are asking for something that is way outside of the scope of most pastors and leaders in church. They have no idea what to do with somebody who is having severe depression and suicidal ideation and all of these things. And so I try to educate the community and the church on the importance of redirecting them to the right resources. And so that is where, it comes in at places like Discover and places like where I work, and there are MHMR. There are so many places out here there that can help. And Ms. Keller had mentioned earlier about Google. Google can be your friend. Google can also be your enemy, but it can also be your friend too. So if you're looking for help or you're seeking help, help is out there. I'm sure that, if you're watching this show today, you can reach out to Charlene or Chantel and leave a message. And if they are not able to help themselves, they will direct you towards help. It is just, we have to stop being in denial. We have to stop putting our heads in the sand and saying, I'm fine, or I'm all right, or I'm good, when really we're not. A lot of people talk about, I don't want to be a burden to somebody. I don't want to bring everybody down. And so that's why you don't have to depend on your friends and your family so much if you get a therapist, if you get a community of other people who are also maybe having those same struggles. So it's out there for us. Today, even better, because now, since one of the things that COVID did bring to us was the online experience that we hadn't really tapped into before. And so now you don't even have to leave your home. You know, we want to encourage people to get out, of course, but to start out, you can start talking to somebody over the internet, you know, if you need to. So there's really no excuse for us now these days in 2022 to neglect our mental health. Um, we should be more educated today than ever on the need, especially in our communities of color, because the word has been getting out. I know I've been doing it, and many of those in this circle, such as Chantal and Charlene, have been doing it every year, talking to people about the importance, especially people of color, the importance of them checking on their mental health. It does not mean you're crazy. It does not mean that there is something innately wrong with you. It just means I need a little help in this area. And everything needs help. Everything and everybody needs help. A guy explained to me one time, he said, you know, even the big airplane, when you go to the airport out there at DFW, it has to have a little cart to hook up and turn it around. It needs some help. Everything needs help. So, you know, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't just sit in it and think it's going to get better when it could get better a lot faster with some help from some professionals who have gone to school and studied. And that's going to be my last point. A lot of us will go to the doctor like I did for my physical and all that good stuff. And we will tell our PCP, oh, you know, I've been kind of feeling down, this, that, and the other. And we will allow our PCP to prescribe us a nice thing of Xanax or a nice, you know, Valium or something to help us. And that is okay. But please understand that when I have a broken arm, I go to an orthopedic specialist. When I have a problem with my heart, they send me to a cardiologist. So why am I entrusting my brain, which houses my mental health, to my PCP? I should be going to a person who specializes in mental health and my brain. So that's my last thing, because I just don't understand why we do that. You know, we allow, we'll go to our doctor for everything and they will send us to other places for other things, but you know, very few send us for the mental health. And part of it is because most of our MDs, they only have a limited amount of training in mental health to get their doctor degree, to practice medicine. It's nothing on their part. It's just the way that the school sets it up. Unless they go on their own to get more in mental health, they only have a certain amount. And so again, it's important to seek out the right kind of help. Don't just go for the first thing. When I say, you know, get on Google and research, I mean research. You know, we spend more time picking out a pair of shoes on Amazon a lot of times than we do with things that are really important, like taking care of our health, than picking a doctor, than picking a mental health specialist. So that is a lot of my background, and what I'm passionate about is diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm passionate about mental health, and I'm extremely passionate about those who suffer and struggle with addictions. So thank you for letting me speak to y'all for a little while.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. D. My full name is Dr. Davion Wallace. I have been in the field 13 years. I am a clinically trained psychologist. I am a scripting psychologist, which is limited by any of our states. But I do practice on the medical side. I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So I understand both sides of not only the mental health, the therapy, and working out life trauma, but also I can understand the chemical science of how it makes up in our physical body. Thank you, Charlene and Chantel, for this opportunity to speak today. I know I look a little young, but I have a little something under my belt. My PhD is in clinical supervision. I went to Regent University, but I am Louisiana. I am now here in Texas. So I just wanted to kind of like distinguish the difference, because we're saying mental health. That's the overall landscape of what this topic is, but mental health is broken down into two segments. Mental health is our day-to-day operation, how we manage our anxiety, how we manage our stress. And then also the other side of that spectrum is if you have a mental illness. That is the treatable side of, okay, cool, I need a little assistance, I need a little medicine, I need a little something extra to deal with my day-to-day. Mental health is something that we all face with. We all wake up with a new day. We all wake up with stresses. We all wake up with some type of anxiety. That is just natural to being a part of the human race. But that is self-manageable. But then we have those people who were born with some kind of chemical deficiencies or hormone deficiencies that cause them to have a mental illness. They did mention the things about substance abuse and things of that nature. That can cause a chemical deficiency where you have now a mental illness. But you're not by yourself. That's manageable as well if you seek treatment. So those are the two spectrums when we come into our mental health. So you're not people thinking, oh, well, I don't have a mental illness, I'm exempt from this. No, you're not. You're not exempt. Because when you wake up and you miss the alarm clock, that's a stressor. And so now your mental health is at play. And that person wakes up, oh, well, I have a mental illness and I'm the one they're talking about that's crazy. No, you're not crazy. You just have something extra that you have to manage along with your normal day-to-day stressors. So that's kind of the spectrum I kind of want to bring in, that as we have these conversations, we all are all in this setting together, regardless of if it's a mental illness or mental health. We all face some type of mental health issues daily. And what I want to throw into that topic, because I think Dr. Scales kind of touched all the bases on the treatment side of it, and then just the advocacy side of it. I want to throw in what people talk about self-care. Sometimes self-care becomes very selfish because you want to go over and have your nails done. You want to escape reality, Everybody wants to do that. And I want to say it's good, but when self-care is not entangled with purpose, which equals people, that has a cause of pain, you have no peace. When we're dealing with self-care, it's for us to return back and serve others. We're not self-caring just so that we can have a vacation, because why we're self-caring? We're only preserving ourselves so that we can go back and serve one another. Yet again, I know that we're all in a time warp. This pandemic has put you in this time capsule and made you feel like that you're isolated and the war has ended. That is a lie, because life still exists outside of this politicized isolation. Even though it did bring forefront of all of the things that we didn't want to talk about, that was hidden inside our homes, because now we're trapped inside our homes. It brought our attention to the hunger issue with our children, because now the schools were the main place where our children receive the food. The domestic violence went, your wife would go to work or your husband would go to work, and that would be your escape from them. Now you're both at home, so now you have learned how to deal with your domestic incidents. Stuff that we didn't want to talk about, it brought forward and it put mental health on the number one. Thank God for that, because now you can go out and utilize, it's part of like one of those biggest features of your insurance package that they would deny when you're like, I'm going to use what's your mental health package? We don't have one because your insurance is not going to cover you. Now it's something that our insurance is backing us up, because it wasn't in 5 years before now, it didn't really exist. We didn't really have that coverage when we want to use our insurance packages. So yes, the pandemic did bring some things that we need to really address, but it also taught us how we were not self-caring, because we always utilize self-care as a way to ignore or deflect our true life issues. And like Dr. Scales was saying, we didn't want to talk about it because we believe that wasn't our problem. Dr. Keller brought it out to the kids. They went out to their parents because the parents weren't being honest. They didn't have conversation. Oh, go to sports. We're gonna drop you off at sports activity. We're gonna dismiss what your real issues are by putting you into another activity. Go to piano lessons. No, you're gonna be a gymnast. But we never sat down at the table like we used to do back. I'm gonna age myself, but when it was dinner time, my mom and my parents just always ask, "How was your day? What did you do today? What did the teacher say? Why did this happen?" That was part of my evening conversation. My mom would discuss how her day was. And we ask her, so what's tomorrow going to look like? It was that genuine conversation that we all just closed. Okay, well, maybe I need to improve here better. Maybe I perceive that differently. Okay, cool. But that was part of our home life. Like I always say that our home is the first classroom, But that was where we don't do that anymore. So we don't, 9 times out of 10, if we're not texting our children, hey, what do you want to eat for dinner? All right, come downstairs, let's go get something to eat. Like, it's all that device type of, it's no face-to-face. So when you talk about that interaction, it's very fearful because we're always perceiving, what's that person gonna say? I can't deflect it because I have no screen to protect me from it. So we're all faced with, what's that reaction gonna look like? I can't preserve myself because I'm not prepared to handle that. So if I'm going to go preserve myself, I'm preserving myself because it's attached to my purpose, which equals people, that has a little pain, that I can find peace within that. That's what self-preservation is all about. I am not just going to go sit in the, and I love, if anybody knows me, I love vacations. They're on my schedule every other month. Is to give me some water or a countryside, I am good to go. But I am going to rest so that I can return back to work. I love my job in the mental health field, and I know that I'm going to be interacting with people and their pains. Yes, it can be overwhelming at times because every situation is different. Which is why in the mental health we individualize every patient we see. We can't put any person in a grouping like, okay, well, you have this symptom, so I'm going to group you here. No, we individualize every case that we come across because it's that story that makes our job even more the better. There's no judgment in our field. I'm not for sure what you've heard about mental health. There's no judgment. We're just here to let you know your truth so you can be at peace, whatever that looks like, whatever that piece looks like for your journey. We're here to make sure that you are living a fulfilled life. And so the techniques we give you is, okay, cool, yes, go rest. Yes, you need to be on a schedule. Yes, you need to be on a regimen. Yes, there's some things you have to commit to so that you can be whole, but also you're not your experiences. Yes, you have encountered some things, but that is not the end all tell all of your story. That's just one little step, and we can build from that if you allow us to help you. The other thing I heard somebody talk about trauma. Trauma is an instant shock when we talk about medical treatment. It's the first blow It is our brain saying, do you have an emergency kit in place? Like, what is your state of emergency track plan that if this happens, how do you respond? And we don't have that. That's why we get stuck in a traumatic state. So that's why the trauma has already happened. It's not going to keep, the blow's not coming back again unless you invite it back or you try to recreate that moment again. Trauma is over after that first shock, boom. And then it's like, how are you going to handle it? Well, we go into the loss of what has taken place of what we no longer have. We get lost. That's part of grief. If we teach you grief, you have now tools to deal with that trauma because now I'm grieving something that has been lost. Instead of no longer you're stuck in the state of trauma, that's the instant shock. Now you're dealing with it. You have somebody working through the process. Okay, sweetie, yeah. So what's our next step? But at the end of the day is how are you going to respond to an instant change? The pandemic is probably the closest thing that most of us has encountered as traumatic. I know it was kind of traumatic for me being a therapist because it's like, wait, whoa. Even though can be somewhat introverted, like, wait a minute. I can't go to the store. I can't get on a cruise boat. I can't get on the airplane. I can't go out of town. It's like, okay, there's a lot of things I can't do anymore. So what do you want me to do? But then I have to go back and go use my creative senses. Okay, well, this is what I cannot do, but I still have a house. I still have a backyard. So I'm be creative. Just put a little sand down. I make my own beach in my own backyard. I have a pool, so I have my ocean. Whatever I could do to kind of create that same little spark in life that I wasn't disassociated. And I think the pandemic, because we don't have these skill sets, there's mental health advocacy is not as public as we want it to be. Nope, we didn't have the voice of reinvent what you already have. Don't allow this isolation to become your normal. And I'm so glad that Dr. Keller said that earlier. We don't like to say the word norm, normalize things, but whatever you want to be authentic and organic for you, just keep flowing in that thing with whatever limitations are presented for you, because that's life is. That's how life presents itself. And you still have to press through that because you still have a journey and a path to go. So when we are self-preserving ourselves in the space of mental health, understanding is always going to be attached to our journey. And we have people along that has been trained to come alongside with us. And yes, Google is a great space. YouTube is a great space, but if it is not connected with a human being, it's going to be limited. Yet again, it takes away from that connection and you go back into a space of isolation because it is a device. And and we learn and build from each other person's energy, each other person's track on our journeys. So when I share my experiences with you, it kind of gives you a little bit more life on, okay, I can do this, because I'm not telling you how to live out your journey. I'm only sharing my experience so that it can empower you to get back on your 2 feet, or back on your horse, and keep on track, because you have more life to live. And it's not based on age. We have children that deal with things that adults have not dealt with, and we have adults that have dealt with things that will be like childlike. So it's not based on your age. It's not based on your geographical location. It is based on your personal purpose. So I want to let you know that, and I do have a therapist. I'm so glad Dr. Skill said that as well, because if your therapist doesn't have a therapist, I think you need to go find you another therapist. Because life is overwhelming. And because we are trusted with your secrets, that's the other thing of why you have a therapist. We can't talk about it with anyone. And I always tell you, if you hear your business come from my mouth, go ahead and go to the state board, because that is my livelihood. I am not messing with my livelihood, because I am coming out of my oath. So that's the other thing. I can't talk about it, but I have to go home and live with it. So I need somebody that I can trust, that keeps me well, so that I can come back and show for my daily purpose. So that's my little pieces about self-preservation. If you are in medical treatment, please make sure that you are supporting to your, yes, I'm glad they brought that up as well. Your PCP is your overall collaborative. They're not the end all, say all of your health. They are the person that's going to be there for they're the grounding force of your medical team. So make sure if your PCP, and if you go in telling them, I feel this way, and they treat you based on how you tell them how you feel without doing proper testing, and I mean blood work, or looking at your other diagnosis from other providers, they are not the person that you should be seeing. If I come in and say, I feel this way and I am so depressed, and they want to give me a Valium, that is not trusty care. That's not trusty healthcare, okay? Because they're only listening to what you're saying, and they're treating symptoms without actually knowing your physical body, and they're causing more harm than they are causing health. So thank you guys. That was my little spiel.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. You guys were awesome. You know, I was writing a couple of things down as I was listening. And so Julie, you had mentioned about DBT being the heart of CBT.
Yes, that's interesting.
To expand just a little bit more on that. Could you expand a little bit more on that?
I would like to clarify, I'm not Dr. Keller just yet. I'm working on it. I'm close, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But it sure sounds good. Oh my goodness. I call DBT CBT with a heart, because CBT is kind of cold. You know, it's boom, 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 where DBT is more personal. You know, it delves into your feelings and how your feelings affect your body. You know, how does getting stressed out affect your body? What is the first sign that, oh my gosh, I'm stressing out and I can't handle this? And am I going to fight or flight or freeze? So it kind of, it helps you get in tune with what is happening right in that moment, and how can I get control of that? Emotion regulation, it's called. And I think that's why it's more personal, and it's more about the person. You know, I always tell my kids, what is the first sign that you're becoming dysregulated? And I teach them the language. You know, what is the first sign that, oh my gosh, I can't handle this? Well, your shoulders go up, your stomach starts hurting, you start sweating, your fists clench. And I teach them, take a notice of that first. You know, what is my body doing? You know, how can I manage what's happening right now if I can't manage what's happening with my body? And so we teach them a DBT skill called stop. Has anybody heard of stop? You know, just stop, take a step back, observe what's happening, you know, assess what's happening, get control, and then proceed. And so that's why I say it's more of a personal heart thing, because it helps them to kind of put everything else aside and just focus on their person.
Okay.
And then they can get control of what's happening and what their next move is.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you. And Dr. Kim, you talked about us
Well-
going out. I'm sorry.
Shirley, I want to ask about suicides right quick.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. So, Julie, I have been noticing an uptick in suicides, not just in young people, but in older people too. Is that directly contributed to COVID, you think, or is it something else going on totally? Because it's been alarming to me. And
Yes, we got a lot of suicidal ideation right now and self-harm. And also a lot of that leads to hallucinations. So yes, I, like Dr. Wallace, believe that a lot of it is internet related. I think that with algorithms, people get on the computer, you know, and when they're home all the time, and of course that's their outlet, they search something out. Okay, I'm feeling suicidal. Well, all of a sudden, the algorithm sends you all this suicidal information, especially the kids, and then it starts overwhelming your mind and taking over, and then all of a sudden it's mind over matter.
Mhm.
And I contribute a lot of that to what are we being fed? You know, those algorithms are huge. That's why Congress has brought people like what's his name with Facebook before them, is that these algorithms are actually controlling a lot of their thoughts. And you want to hear the strangest thing, the suicidal ideation with our teenagers. I keep hearing about this shadowy man. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but a lot of my kids are coming in saying, I saw and learned about shadowy man on the internet, and he's telling me to kill myself. I keep hearing that. So this is just an example of what these electronics are doing to people. So, and especially the algorithms. So I think, Chantel, that's where a lot of suicidal ideation is coming from. Because when we were growing up, we were out in the public talking to people, so we weren't so much sharing our suicidal ideation. Whereas online, they get inundated. People get inundated with it, especially if you search something out related to that.
that's true. I agree with what you said. All right, I'm sorry, Shirley, for interrupting you. I just had
Oh, no,
to.
that was a great question. Great question. Dr. Kim, you had mentioned about us engaging in self-care, not only people, just clients or just people, but also the mental health population. We ought to engage in self-care and be able to check in on our mental health. And I just want to ask you just to expound a little bit on the mental health professionals, because this is mental health awareness. And I think sometimes we become so aware of other people, we forget about us, you know, and we kind of leave us out. Not Dr. David. He takes care of himself. And I'm gonna start using that policy. I'll get to you in a minute, but I need to start checking myself a little bit more because I haven't been anywhere in a while because of COVID. So what is your thoughts about mental health professionals and self-care and mental health checkups for ourselves?
It is vital. There's as y'all know, I told you I'm a ministry lead. So there's a scripture that says basically, physician, heal thyself.
Yeah.
It's vital. I mean, in order to help others, you must be able first to be healthy yourself and be able to help yourself. Again, my airplane analogies. I mean, they tell you when you're on a flight that if you have a child or an elderly person with you and something happens on this flight, and when the mask come down, you put yours on first. Then you can put the mask on the others that, you know, can't do it for themselves, because you have to be okay first in order to help someone else. In our profession, it is easy to burn out and become unhealthy and unethical
That's it.
because you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
We experience what is called compassion fatigue as well as secondary trauma. So
Mhm.
as Dr. Wallace was saying, all day long, I'm listening to other people's stress. I'm listening to other people's suicide ideation and how they want to harm themselves. I'm listening to people talk about their family problems. I have a family, and we have problems. I'm listening to all of these things. I'm listening to sexual assaults and abuse, and uh, I'm listening to how I don't know how I can make it another day. I'm so tired of doing these drugs. I'm listening to all of this stuff, and I am licensed to keep it to myself. I
Right.
cannot tell it to anybody else. I can't come home and tell my husband, my wife, I can't tell anybody. So what do I do with that? What do I do with that? I'm a human being. I have a heart, I have compassion, hopefully, or I wouldn't even be in this field. So here I am taking all of this on. So yes, I need a place. And it's okay for me to do, definitely, I need to do my vacations. I need to do my lunches. I need to go get my nails done and my hair done. And I need to go and hang out with my friends. But that still doesn't get that out.
That's
So
right.
I've got to go somewhere where I can get that out. And the only other place that I can go is to another therapist.
Right.
And so that's why it's so vital that any therapist that you are interviewing to become your therapist, that you ask that question. Well, how often do you do therapy?
Yeah, good point. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. I like that. And you're right. And I think we don't talk enough about vicarious trauma where we are receiving that secondary trauma, hearing them all day. We don't really talk about that a lot. We talk about other mental health disorders, but we don't talk about us. So I appreciate your input on that. Thank you. Chantel, you have something to add?
No, she cleared everything up that I was gonna ask. So thank you, Dr. Scales.
Can I make a statement?
Yeah.
In conjunction to what Dr. Scales was saying, I'm reminded of James 5:16, where it says, "Make this a common practice. Confess your faults to one another, that we can be whole and heal." And I think that's really the language of the therapist, because we have to decipher between what's true and then what's reality.
Yeah.
And because we deal with everyone else's reality, we're stuck in a space of, is that true or is that reality? And I think even if they're not, if we want to call them our therapist, but our mentor or somebody that we has been in our colleague, whatever we want to call them, but that's that person we check in that we can clear our head and be like, okay, this is where I am. If I don't talk to someone right now, we don't have a conversation, I'm at my boiling point. I show up for work, I listen to this, but I am not being fulfilled. And they know, they can see deep inside and decipher between that truth and that reality of, okay, doc, it's time for you. It's time to take a break. You need to, when can you clear your calendar? That friendship, that level of relationship that we have to have as therapists with another person. Yet again, it's that human experience. It's not me checking into my Google or going to YouTube or. And I know we all have our self-care techniques where we can binge TV, whatever it is. It's beyond that moment of me getting through the day. It's who do I need to check in with so that I can empty this out so that I can show up again. But when she made that statement, that reminded me of that scripture.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's so important. And it's one of the reasons I had written the book that I wrote about telling your story. It's so important that we get out of us those things that are inside that are hurting, that are weighing us down. And yes, you can, without disclosing confidential client information, you can speak with another therapist, and they can be that person, like you said, who actually can say, sister, I think you need to go see somebody else. It seems like this is a little bit more than the usual. Yeah, so that's great, Dr. Wallace. Thank you.
That's good, Dr.
Yeah, that was
David.
good.
I do have another question, Dr. D. With when you talked about trauma and that the blow has already happened, okay? And sometimes people are, and somebody's going to watch this on YouTube later on, okay? Because we do have people who do watch these. Yes, they do. And so someone is going to watch this and they're going through a moment. And I think you articulated it great about what happens when trauma happens. But sometimes during those times, people are going through also having anxiety from the trauma. Can you just share a little bit about some of those symptoms so that when someone's watching that, at least they can say, you know what, maybe I need to go get checked out. I just thought that this happened in the past, but I'm really having some other issues. Because sometimes people equate trauma and depression, just depression, and it's not just depression. There's other things that are happening too. There's some physiological things that are going on. And it's from the past, not that it's happening now, no, but there are things that are still going on that are triggering. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
It kind of goes back to understanding yourself. A lot of us haven't been exposed to a lot of terminology on just self-care and what that looks like. So when we have a traumatic experience, we jumble everything into one big pot. So when trauma does happen, even though you're trying to decipher, you don't understand your body has already went into that survival mode. Like it's just flight or so your body naturally is functioning, and you're like, what's happening? We're still stuck at the moment of what has just happened. Instead of like, okay, so I think the first part of is having a conversation on what does my body physically does when I'm in trouble. And then what happens when I don't, what's the next, so once I understand what my body does when I'm in trouble, okay, cool. Your first thing is your body's self-defense. It's gonna protect itself. It's gonna move you to get out of danger. That's the first act, that's just the first response to trauma. Secondly is now that I know that that's what my body's doing, what happens when I don't respond to that self-defense mechanism? That is when the symptoms of anxiety start to build up because you don't have a sense of control. And so you don't know what your next step is. That's when you start self-labeling yourself as, because I haven't done this, I'm depressed, or I have this, I have that. But because you don't have a second step. Thirdly is, now that I haven't made any step, I haven't responded to step 1 or step 2, I have now there's something physically wrong with me. Now that you have now internalized this whole process without even making a motion. Like, so it's first, okay, cool. That was my body responding to danger. Okay. Now that I know that I'm in danger, or it's not a safe space, what's my next step? Okay. How do I handle getting out of this, get into a safe space? Forget anything else is happening. Let your body regulate itself, breathe, come out of it before you allow it. Because that's where the anxiety and that stress builds up, because now you're not in a safe space and you're just trying to rush through stuff, like trying to move, come out of the trauma, get into a safe space so that your body can self-regulate. Now that you're calm, now start responding like, hey, cool, this is what's happening. I don't want to go back to that. So what do I do next? Do I need medical treatment? Do I need, of course we need, after that type of experience, I need to talk to somebody. Who do I trust with this conversation? And that's something that why we get caught up in the actual, now something's wrong with me, and start internalizing it, because we don't know who's our safe space is. Who can we confess these things to? As we know that when we go into, and a lot of times we put all that trust into the medical system, which I'm not knocking medical system, but your emergency room is for emergencies. Their whole objective to get your body back to a state where it can function at what, I don't want to say the word normal, but what was normal to you prior to this incident. And then after that's our whole goal. We're not there to provide mental health care. We're not there to long-term health. Are you okay to function? Are you safe? Are your heart functioning well? Your kidneys functioning well? Everything else is according to this standard. You're functioning well, and you're good to go. But they have not dealt with that instant shock. And that's where the conversation with that trusted individual is, okay, how did that shock move you? What did it do to you? Okay, before we put anything other type of labels on you, that's where that mental health piece come in. How did that knock you out of your self-regulation? Now that you have the conversation, that's where we can decipher, these are the signs of depression. This is where your stress builds up. This is where your anxiety, because that's the third step after you go through those first two steps.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love it. I love it. Chantel, do you have anything you want to add?
Survival mode. So if we have a client that doesn't want to go to therapy or can't afford therapy, is there any way for them to get out of survival mode without going to therapy?
That's a good question. I'm going to say there is a way to come out of survival mode without going through a traditional therapy. It's when they identify when that trend begin. Because survival mode is really behaviors that we have repeated over and over, and that has become our habit or our norm. But it's them doing the self-work, identifying when did this begin. And if they can identify when it began, they can go back and rewrite what that behavior looks like for them. Because sometimes survival mode is paying your bills, and you have that's paycheck to paycheck. And so I know I got to go to work, and that could be a survival mode. Survival mode could be whatever that survival mode is for them. They have to go back and really identify what created that, without having to go per se. Now it would be better off if they did it in a traditional therapeutic manner, but there is ways to go to still deal with that without having a traditional, what we call traditional therapist or therapeutic treatment plan.
And it could often be longer, take much longer than it would have had they not come in and saw a traditional therapist. And quite often they get stuck. And that's the problem. That's when we get people come in talking about, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Because they've tried to regulate themselves on them, especially people of color. They've tried a bunch of different stuff rather than come in here, And so when they finally get to us, they're talking about, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. So it would take a lot longer. It's kind of like when we talk about grief work, and you had mentioned that earlier, Dr. Wallace. You can do it now or you can do it later, but you're gonna have to do it at some point. And so it's the same thing. You're gonna have to deal with it at some point, or it's gonna deal with you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think Julie wanted to say something.
Mm-hmm.
You're on mute.
What I tell my kids, when they get home, if that happens to them and they're not willing to reach out and ask for help, go back to your toolbox, go back to what you know and where you know that information is. And I know it sounds, it doesn't sound perfect. It almost sounds like a cliche, but those tools are on YouTube, DBT for teenagers. I say, when you start forgetting, how do I manage these emotions? It's right there. And I literally just kind of drill that in their head, because they get to that point where I don't want to talk to a therapist. I don't want to ask for help. Okay, but you still have access to that information. Just go watch a mindfulness video and calm yourself down, or help yourself to get calmed down. It's a toolbox. Watch that interpersonal effectiveness video or that emotion regulation. Where that information is. I actually have books on it. We watch a video, we do an activity from the DBT book, and then I share with them, okay, this is where you can access that information if, say, you're home alone in the middle of the night and you want to kill yourself. So it is there, and it's just a matter of pointing people in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you. That's all I have. What do you have, Chantel?
That's it. That's all
You
I
guys
have.
You guys have been awesome. We wanted this to happen today. You have fulfilled what we wanted to happen.
Yes,
We wanted
yes.
to be able to talk about mental health, and to also not just celebrate Mental Health Month, but to just be a part of it, bringing more awareness. We talk about constantly breaking the stigma of mental health and mental illness, and we want to be able to do that by providing information to people all over, just being able to provide that. And so you guys have fulfilled that for us today. And we thank you so much for giving us your time and your knowledge and wisdom. The future, Dr. Keller, again, thank you so much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Dr. Kimberly Scales, thank you as always, my friend.
Thank
And,
you,
thanks.
Charlene and Chantel, for this platform
Thank
and for
you.
You're
doing what
welcome.
y'all do every
Yeah.
month. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And Dr. Davian, he is our genius. He is.
Yes,
He is our genius. I love when he
Yeah.
comes on and shares with us because he has a plethora of knowledge
yeah.
and a lot of things. And I just appreciate, he always increases me a little bit more. And I appreciate that so much. And, but again, we appreciate you, and please look for us on YouTube. Share this with your friends and your family. I just also want to say, because we are all clinicians, I think Julie, she's in California.
Yes.
So if you share this, please, when you share this, we want you to know that she is a clinician. She specializes in children. So if you need a clinician, please look her up. Please look her up. So please share this, because we want you, other people, to bring their children to you.
Yeah.
And with Dr. Scales, if you are in need, and I see this all the time on the clinicians' pages. So I'm going to share this with someone else, or some other people, that she is taking LPCAs. There's a lot of them coming out of school right now, and who need a licensed professional counselor supervisor who can supervise you, and she can supervise all over the state, correct? The state of Texas. Correct? Okay. And so we want people to know, if you're in need of a supervisor, please look her up. You can find her on the Great Wide Web. And she does do supervision. And if you can't find her, inbox myself or Chantel, and we will
Yeah.
direct you how to reach her. Okay. And Dr. Davian, again, he has a plethora of knowledge. I know
Yeah.
are you still working in Dallas? Yes, okay. And so he works with children as well, okay? But he also provides education, he does lectures. And so if you need him, please reach out to any of them. They're awesome speakers. And so we want you to be able to share the message and the hope of mental health. I think that's what clenches my heart, is the hope of mental health. And that includes substance abuse as well. And we don't want to leave that out, substance abuse treatment, because people need help. People need help, and we want to be there to help them. Chantel, you want to take us out?
All right. So I want to just thank everyone for being here. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very informational. And until next time, I will see y'all. But go check us out at YouTube, Chantel and Charlene, What's Troubling You. Like and subscribe, and we are going.